Hello again, everybody. It's been a few years since I made a video. I'm living out here in Colorado, as you can see in the background. It's a Saturday, late morning. I drove an hour and a half into the mountains. I'm living in northeastern Colorado now. Yeah, so it's been about 2 years since I made a video, and just kind of wanted to talk about some of the changes and what I want to tell you guys about the videos I want to make here in the future. So one of the main aspects is nature. I'll show you guys a lot of mountains, forest. Like right now, we're just north of Rocky Mountain National Park. So if I hiked 10 miles down and back one way, so it'd be a total of 20 miles, we'd hit the Rocky Mountain National Park. Get some views here again. I'm in a burned area right now, so a little bit unfortunate to see a burned area out here in the mountains, but you know, that's life out here in the West. So nature is one of my main passions. So that's kind of like the mountain man part of me that I'm starting to explore. I came out here 2 years ago to Colorado, where I kind of fell in love with the area. Now I moved out here. So I moved from Minnesota to here to northeastern Colorado, and I'm working at a middle school. Right now I'm just like the in-building substitute teacher and assistant teacher. So I just kind of work wherever they need me. And right now I'm not coaching, but I will start to coach in mid-October. And that'll be about 7 months worth of coaching, 3 different sports. I know a lot about basketball, so I'll coach that. I don't know much about wrestling, but I'm gonna be assistant coach for that. And then I'll coach track in the spring, which I know a little bit about. I ran track in high school. So with job, that's another aspect of what I want to discuss, is how to reduce stress in terms of career, jobs, and money. So I'll be discussing more about my philosophy. Basically is to reduce as much stress as possible, but simultaneously making enough money to make ends meet, right? But also have enough money to go on adventures, go into nature, and also have the necessary gear and clothing to go do that stuff. So for example, like I bought some safety stuff at the camping store in town against, well, bears. Yeah, you have to be careful about bears in the Rockies, but usually it's just a black bear, and they're pretty scared of people. So I do have bear spray, but really the main thing is you got to be worried about is mountain lions, also known as cougars. You know, a lot of people carry a gun, you know, a sidearm, to protect themselves against mountain lions. But I'm a little bit more of a pacifist. So as of right now, I just have a variety of things to protect me against mountain lions. Got a trekking pole. It makes you look a little bit bigger, and you can kind of use it to protect yourself, right? Almost like a spear. I also have bear spray, as I said. That's probably gonna be my go-to defense mechanism against mountain lions. But I also have knives. I have a small knife, like a small pocket knife, but I also have like a pretty significant single blade knife with me. Yeah, those are my main defenses. But if you also want to know more about mountain lions, you know, I'm not gonna go into detail. I've never even seen a mountain lion. You can just search that on other channels. But I'm just kind of describing that being out in the mountains, you really do have to be mindful of especially mountain lions, but also bears and moose. The main thing is, you know, as kind of a single mountain man, I'm out in the mountains a lot by myself. Really the smartest thing is to be with other people, but sometimes you can't. Sometimes you want to be in the mountains alone, like out here where you can kind of see some of the burn here. But you can be in the mountains alone. There's just a lot of peace. You know, that's where you can really feel silence and the stillness of nature and the aliveness of nature. I'm seeing these like red, I'm not sure what they are. These like red fruits here. Not sure what they are. But yeah, there's a lot of wild fruits here. When I was near Mount Massive, which is the second highest peak in Colorado, there was a lot of huckleberries, and they were pretty delicious. So that's one way to stay sustained in the mountains, is read up a little bit on what sort of wild fruits or flowers and other edible things without getting poisoned. So yeah, nature. And then I referred to silence, stillness of nature. You know, that's related to being a spiritual person. So another aspect is being very, very spiritual, especially meditation. I mean, nature obviously is a part of that spirituality. It's a main aspect of it. But I would say even more than being a mountain dude, I'm a spiritual dude, I would say. And I don't want to put labels on myself, but definitely being spiritual is kind of the main component. So nature, reducing stress at work, making ends meet, and being spiritual. Those are kind of the main things that I'll discuss. And another thing about being in the mountains is being in good health, right? So two aspects of that is diet and exercise, but also like psychological therapy, right? But you got to make enough money and have enough time to go to therapy. So I would totally recommend that as well. But if you don't do that, having a healthy diet, which I'll discuss in more detail, having a healthy diet and exercise is super important. So I'll talk more about, I can hear the river more here. Kind of turn that around, you can see the bright sunshine and the river's right down there. So doing yoga, I do about probably 50 minutes a day on average of yoga, mostly restorative yoga. So, you know, staying in one asana or yoga pose for like, I don't know, 3 to 7 minutes, and really get into the stretch and really breathe into the stretch. But also doing sun salutations. You know, that gets your heart rate up a little bit more. You start to sweat and release some maybe toxins and things like that you have from sweating. But also it feels good to kind of get into the flow of the sun salutations. So those are the main things about yoga I do. And I do yoga mostly alone. And then I go hiking, obviously. Hiking is great. I go do a little bit of running as well. especially on the weekends when I have a lot of time. You know, I'll go for an 8-mile run, you know, a 1-hour run. I also have free access to a gym. You know, it's not the best gym ever, but it's free at the apartment, near the apartment I live. And, you know, I just do some weights and cardio to stay in shape, to stay strong. So exercise is super important to me. So that's a great way to stay healthy. And then diet is kind of the other end of that as well. And I eat probably 90% of vegan diet. Very simple, like fruits, vegetables, rice, tortillas, hummus, nuts, things like that. I'm not strictly vegan, especially when I'm with other people. I'll eat meat on occasion. I enjoy Mexican food too, so you know, that's like cheese, has cheese in there. So I'll eat cheese every once in a while. Yeah, and in terms of like alcohol and drugs, you know, I quit marijuana, basically don't smoke marijuana anymore, and I don't drink much alcohol anymore either. That was pretty recent. I did over the summer when I was moving. Just because I was with family, I couldn't really control my diet very much. So I was eating more meat and things like that. And I kind of decided, like, I'm just gonna get a lot of this out of my system and just kind of experiment with it and see how my body rejects things like marijuana and alcohol and meat. And it did. And kind of when I moved to Colorado 5 weeks ago, I kind of just went back to my vegan diet. I did a little bit of fasting, not a lot. I have a hard time fasting just because I'm pretty active and I'm already kind of skinny. But kind of released a lot of the bad stuff I was consuming this summer. But again, I'm not super strict, so I'll have a beer every once in a while, but mainly when I'm just with others. But it really affects my sense of awareness. Really affects my overall health, so I stay away from that kind of stuff. Here's another mountain view. You can see a lot of the burn, unfortunately. But that's just the reality of being out here. But there's lots of places out here in Colorado that aren't burnt. Yeah, so I don't really want to name my channel something, but you know, if I have to name it something, you know, it'll be the Modern Mountain Monk. You know, it's a little bit catchy. So the modern is like, I'm living in society. You know, I work at a middle school, a public middle school. So I'm very aware of like what's going on in culture. You know, I work pretty hard, but it's not like super stressful right now. I'm not a full-time teacher, so I'm not doing a lot of lesson planning and things like that. And I make enough to make ends meet and be able to buy necessary gear to go into the mountains. But in the future, I'd like to have a career aligned with my talents and passions. So I'm hoping that through kind of expressing myself here on this channel, you know, I'd be able to really, make money through just expressing myself, which is definitely the goal, is to make money being you. There's some dandelions. Dandelions are good to eat. So, and then the mountain aspect is the nature, being out in nature, And then the monk is kind of the spiritual part of myself, doing a lot of meditation. I meditate about an hour every day, mostly indoors, but this summer I explored meditating outside more. And like being like a Christian or Buddhist monk, like it's not super strict to, like there's not really much of an identity then, like of being something in the world. You know, if you just say, well, I'm kind of like a monk, then you really identify with the silence the most and nature a lot. But really a monk is very quiet, lives a very simple life, yet being in the modern mountain monk, right? You're still in this fast-paced world, but you're not of it, as Jesus said, right? Like you're in the world, you have a career, maybe you have a house or an apartment. You don't live in a monastery or ashram, but you're also not of the world, meaning, you know, you're a monk in your heart. You enjoy the silence, you enjoy walking in nature, you enjoy meditation and yoga, and prayer as well. Christians obviously are really into prayer, and I don't identify as Christian, but I've been starting to go to church on Sundays, and I think prayer is extremely powerful for opening the heart and being more compassionate. You know, but people who are into yoga and meditation might not sometimes really be into prayer. But I find it to be a great, not really even alternative, it's just a different way to meditate. Has much more Shakti energy, more feminine energy, more aliveness. You know, so if you balance that with the peace and the silence, it's a great way to meditate, you know, getting in tune with maybe the silence of nature here, but then also praying and having faith in the divine, or having faith in God, and being humble enough to see that, you know, God or life is in control. I am not in control. My ego is not in control. It can kind of lead me astray in many ways and get me confused. For example, with me this summer, where I was consuming more marijuana and alcohol and meat, I kind of let my ego get the best of me a little bit. But, you know, then you get that out of your system a little bit, and you return to the silence. You return to the cleaning of the body, and really getting in tune with nature, or getting in tune with silence. So those are kind of the main things. So this is just kind of the first video after a 2-year hiatus. But those are kind of the main aspects that I want to discuss in the future. And I want to show you guys some beautiful places out here in Colorado, but also I'll travel around the Rocky Mountains in general and the West in general. So I want to show you guys some beautiful places, and also kind of just continue to express who I am, and put myself out there, kind of prepare myself to, you know, start to turn my expression into a career. So hopefully I'm able to do that in this life. You know, I pray to God to help me do that. You know, it's going to take a lot of humility to just trust that God has the path for me, and that I can't really totally figure it out myself. So that's a big part of it. And also I want to demonstrate humility and love, and not have like my expression be about me. Really, it's actually about what is connecting all of us. So I just kind of want to show that it's possible to be happy. And not only possible, it's like the best way to be happy is to be connected to everything else. Nature, people, right? It's a big reason why I say modern mountain monk is like you're connected to others. They don't need to be like spiritual people. They don't need to even like nature, or they can have, you know, addictions and things like that, but they still have beautiful hearts. And we're all sisters and brothers, right? So, you know, I want to connect with everybody, and I can learn with everybody, and I want to be compassionate towards everybody, and not just kind of I don't want to see society as an enemy. You know, society is also a beautiful thing, but, you know, there are issues, right? So you kind of have one foot in and one foot out of society. So, and if, you know, you have your 9-to-5 job, it's nice on a weekend to have the 1 foot out of society and get into nature. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm gonna leave it at that. I'll leave it with a kind of a final shot here of the river and the forest, even though it's slightly burnt, and the mountains there in the background. It's hard to see here. Yeah, you can't really see the mountains here, but kind of a beautiful view back there. All right, peace.